Is Boeing placing diversity, equity, and inclusion above safety? Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the door of a Boeing 737 MAX 9 flying off of one of their aircrafts at 16,000 feet after takeoff from Portland, Oregon. Now, thankfully, nobody was seriously injured. The plane was able to land right back in Portland after the incident. From the time the door flew off to the time they landed, it took 27 minutes. Now, luckily, nobody was sitting near where the door was or on the row of the door. And if they were, this could be a whole different report. Now, before I get into the door's mechanics, maybe how it flew off, why it flew off, or whatever, let's just address the elephant in the room, in my humble opinion. Now, Boeing, I think, might be dealing with some issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. They may be more concerned with this kind of thing than quality control. I've been reading a lot of comments on videos about this. One of the comments that stood out was how when they moved from Seattle to Chicago, it became less about the engineers, less about the design of the aircraft, less about safety, and more about lawyers and marketing and things of this nature. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Boeing makes garbage aircrafts. I'm not going to say that because there's quite a few Boeing aircrafts in the sky right now, and they're just fine. But there's obviously an issue with quality control. This particular aircraft we're speaking about right now is the 737 MAX 9. Remember, 2018, the 737 MAX 8, you had two crashes, one Indonesia, Malaysia, another one Ethiopia, claimed hundreds of lives. They had to get grounded. It was a whole big thing with Boeing. Now here we are with the MAX 9, and we're dealing with more quality control issues. Rather than the plane trying to nosedive after takeoff, you have plug doors popping off the aircraft after takeoff. Now, to get to the plug door, this is a damage from the actual aircraft. Now, you see their seats right here. Understand the way that this works. This is a door that works as a door, but it was covered by a panel, and they put seats right there. So normally, if there's a functioning exit that they use, there wouldn't be any seats right there next to the door. It'd be back a row. And you would see the door as a door, but this one, it was a panel over it. So if you're sitting right there, it's just a regular window seat. It's not really anything special. There'd be a window on it and everything else. The panel would be covering the actual opening mechanism of the door. So there was a door right there. It did work, but there was a panel covering it, and it was not functioning as a door at that moment. Somehow the door popped off the aircraft at 16,000 feet. Now, the way a plug door works is that the pressure from the outside of the aircraft is going to be lower than the pressurized cabin once you get to cruising altitude. So, for example, once you're at 16,800 feet or 30,000 feet cruising, you're going to have very low pressure outside the aircraft, but you're going to have a pressurized cabin with higher pressure. This difference creates a seal, which makes it impossible to open. But for some reason at 16,000 feet, it popped off of the aircraft. Now, I don't know if the pressure at that particular altitude was enough to keep it sealed, but I don't think the seal was really the thing because the door just flew off the craft. And you can see the damage to the body of the aircraft, the fuselage right there. All right. Now, you might be able to see it right here. That's how it will look on the outside when it's not being used. There's a door right there, but the panel's over it with a window. So it's like a regular window seat, and you can see it a little bit up close right there. All right. That'd be how the door will look on the outside when it's not damaged, when it's not blown off of the hinges. That's the way it is. So obviously we got quality control issues. Back in 2018 with the crashes, you had the design of the aircraft was kind of wonky. These really big engines created a balance problem. So then when the pilots try to take off, the plane wants to do a nosedive, and that created an issue for people that were not necessarily experienced enough, perhaps, or it was just an obstacle that some pilots could not deal with, a design flaw. And here we are right now with yet another design flaw, or at least a quality control issue with a plane, which, by the way, is only about 10 weeks old. This was delivered to the airport at the end of October 2023. We're talking about just 10 weeks ago. The plane was completed, finished production, and delivered. 10 weeks old, and then the door pops off mid-flight. Now, again, nobody was hurt, although a little boy's shirt was taken off his body, and then the cell phone that he may have had or somebody else may have had flew out of the actual aircraft. Now, there's more here. The door to the actual plane was found in an Oregon school teacher's backyard. Shout out to Bob. He found the door. And of course, they're going to go try to retrieve this and investigate to figure out why this happened. Because again, as the plane ascends to higher altitudes, like maybe at 16,000 feet, as the door goes up, as the plane goes to that height, the door should begin to seal itself due to the pressure difference. Now, I'm not sure if there's enough pressure at that height, but I think maybe it should be. And I don't think the pressure difference, I think it's a issue of the actual door itself not being affixed to the fuselage properly, in my humble opinion. But let's look here, because there's a lot we got to get to in this particular video. So check it out. So they found the door in the backyard. And here's the most important part that we got to get into. Okay. Alaska Airlines recorded that the plane's auto pressurization fail light, which is designed to signal failures in controlling cabin pressure, had illuminated on 3 flights before Friday's incident. Those reports on December 7th, January 3rd, and January 4th prompted tests and a reset from maintenance. Jennifer Hominy, chair of National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, said at a news conference Sunday evening. So this very same aircraft that had the catastrophic failure of the door had some warnings, okay, in previous flights before this incident. Now let's continue. She added that the airline restricted the plane from flying to Hawaii in case it would need swift landing, and that a later request from Alaska Airlines for a deeper look had gone unfulfilled before the incident on Friday. So they knew this could happen. They knew there could be a problem and it would need a swift landing, which is what happened. It went 16,000 feet. The door pops. They have to descend to 10,000 feet and come right back to Portland immediately. Now imagine if they were already off the coast going to Hawaii and in the middle of the ocean. That would have been the problem if the door popped off at that particular point. What if the door popped off at 30,000 feet? What if the door was being used as an exit and you're at altitude of cruising and you have the flight attendants doing the service, giving out snacks and whatnot? You got guys going to the bathroom. That would have been a catastrophe. That would have been just completely crazy. All right. So there's more to this article. I will link to it, but the flight was on its way to Ontario, California from Portland, Oregon. The door was found in an Oregon school teacher's backyard, and we can get into a little bit more here. Let's get into this actual news clip. If you want to see this clip in full without my commentary, link as always will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Dozens of Boeing 737 MAX 9s are grounded this morning, not by the weather in the Northeast, but by a terrifying mid-air incident on the West Coast. An entire section of the fuselage came off an Alaska Airlines jet after it left Portland, Oregon. This was on Friday. Amazingly,
So this video right here, you see all the air masks have descended from the ceiling. And they're showing the plane flying with the door just off of the aircraft. You're able to see just the lights of the city below. Imagine you don't have your seatbelt on when this happens and you're sitting right next to the door. Oh, my goodness.
No one was hurt in this incident. Hundreds of flights, however, have been canceled as a result, and it is raising some pretty obvious concerns about how the heck this could have happened. Chris Van Cleve is at the airport there in Portland. He's been following all this all weekend. It's been a busy weekend. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. The plane is back behind us. When this piece blew out, it did with so much force that it ripped open the fortified cockpit door 26 rows ahead of it. It was so strong it ripped the shirt off a passenger's back. And now we're learning on at least 3 incidents leading up to this one. There were pressurization alerts that pilots received. It was so concerning, Alaska said that newly built plane shouldn't be able to fly over water. Our first look at the crippled Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9. Investigators say damage like this mangled seat has been found in nearly every row. Nicholas Hoke was on the flight Friday night.
A loud boom, or almost like a mini explosion, happens abruptly.
It was a 63-pound piece of the plane known as a plug door blowing out at 16,000 feet, leaving a gaping hole, forcing the 171 passengers and 6 crew to don oxygen masks.
Alaska, copy to a declared emergency. We're descending down to 10,000 and we need to return back to Portland.
There was moments of, am I going to make it? Texting my loved ones that I love them and I'm not sure what's going to happen here.
So I'll leave that right there. There's a little bit more to that video, but I'll leave it right there. You get the idea of what's happening. At 16,000 feet, the door pops, the masks come down. They got to descend to 10,000 and go right back to Portland. But there were warnings before this that this could happen. Pressurization warnings. So was the cabin not pressurized properly? I mean, what's going on? Again, the plug door is designed to function with the pressurization from the inside of the cabin and outside of the aircraft. The difference creates the seal. Now, if there's a problem on the inside of the cabin and the seal's not really functioning properly, then now you got a problem with the door, perhaps. But as I close, I want to say this. Boeing, I think we have some deeper issues going on here than diversity, than dealing with the lawyers and the marketing. You have some quality control issues, 100%. You had it with a 737 MAX 8 that caused a lot of people to lose their life. And now with the MAX 9, this appears to be what you would have in the vehicle where you get a recall for the airbags not inflating. That kind of thing is going on with the aircraft, and you don't want that kind of failure in a vehicle that will have hundreds of lives on board, and a failure like that could cause the entire aircraft and everyone aboard to lose their life. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your take on what's happening here? Do you think Boeing has some serious problems? Again, with the MAX 8, you had a lot of issues. Now with the MAX 9, we're dealing with not the same issues as the MAX 8, but different issues. And again, I'm not going to say that all Boeing aircrafts are trash. There's quite a few Boeings in the air right now, but obviously there's some deep problems. And I think that if this happened to this brand new aircraft 10 weeks after commission, this could rear its ugly head in other aircrafts that could be functioning right now as we speak. But thankfully, they've all been grounded until they inspect them. Hopefully, this does not happen anymore. And if it does, there's going to be a really, really big problem for Boeing. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.